Welcome to LifeBlood. This is George G, and the time is right. Welcome to today's guest, strong and powerful Jeff, Tsai and Vinny. Jeff and Vinny, are you ready to do this?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's go. Jeff and Vinny are the co-founders of Javlin Invest. It's an app that gives long-term investors better access to data and the tools necessary to take their finances into their own hands. Excited to have both of you on. Tell us a little bit about your personal lives, some more about your work, and why you're doing what you're doing.
All right. George, thanks for having us. Excited to be here. I guess I'll get started, Jeff?
Absolutely.
All right. So my name is Vinny, co-founder of Javlin Invest. Professionally, my background is in finance. I was in trading, portfolio management, and M&A in total for about 15 years. I've been happily married for almost 3 years now, which 2 were spent during the pandemic, still going strong. So, okay on that front. Jeff?
Yeah, and so, following Vinny, I am actually completely different than Vinny to a certain degree. I'm a credentialed actuary, fellow of the Society of Actuaries. Previously to co-founding this, I was sort of running and overseeing all of the corporate actuarial functions within a small to medium-sized mutual life insurance company focused on retirement products. And I oversaw like asset liability modeling, cash flow testing, product innovation, enterprise risk management, and all those functions. And sort of a passion project that I've been working on and sort of how we got into the app making business is, as I was leaving, actually, a passion project of mine is making a Hoop Hero, which is an 8-bit basketball game for iOS. Yeah, so that's sort of a fun thing that we're doing. And we're thinking of trying to expand that into an NFT space somehow.
I love it. So you both have, is there a passion for the markets, passion for investing, and you recognize that a lot of folks who are out there that are hopping on apps like Robinhood or XYZ app or just trading in their Fidelity account, whatever, they're sort of trading with their hands tied behind their backs.
Yeah, and absolutely. And that's kind of why we made this app, right? We wanted to help the everyday investor get a better understanding of their stock portfolio, and also to provide tools and resources so that they can make better investment decisions. Our main focus is around risk and reward, which we think is something that isn't really focused on enough. And we provide risk metrics that aren't typically found in other investment software, such as conditional value of risk, volatility, and Sharpe ratios. It can also help you easily optimize and backtest your portfolio against the S&P 500. So these tools were traditionally used by professional money managers, but now we kind of want to make it available to everyone, Yeah.
And then George, I think it's great that you brought up passions, because actually I joke with Vinny all the time that our passions, this app is sort of the intersection or the baby or the marriage, the happy marriage of both of our passions. Vinny, obviously with his portfolio management and his M&A and his finance background, very strong and a great portfolio manager, trading background. He's focused on the returns. And obviously because he has that investment experience, he also has the idea of optimization and back testing and understanding what people are doing as they're trading, as they're building the portfolios. And then my passion and my experience has been risk. And so I'm sort of the ice to the fire, and helping to really bring the idea of like, hey, our passion is really to drive helping retail investors understand the risks in their portfolio that they're actually holding. And so Javelin is actually customized to you. You come in and you put in your portfolio or you link your portfolio. And so, it's great that you brought up passions, because this is really our passion.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So risk and reward, let's just talk. I think that certainly it's easy for me to get my brain around reward if I throw money at AMC or Dogecoin or whatever, and it goes up 10,000%, that's awesome. Harder for me to as an investor, or maybe I don't even realize, like how is risk relating or transferring to my behavior and my bottom line?
So a lot of people don't realize how risky, say, something like a Dogecoin actually is, right? And it's really hard to quantify without, the data and the analytics. So one example that we actually like to use to help, people illustrate, what we mean by risk to reward and what we're trying to kind of accomplish here with the app is we like to compare, something similar, right? So GameStop to like a Tesla, right? Both super popular stocks for the past couple of years. And if you look at their risk to return profiles, you notice that their returns are actually pretty similar, right? However, their risk differs drastically. So in our risk to reward chart, you can easily see that, to get that type of return of like a GameStop or a Tesla, you don't necessarily have to take on as much risk as a GameStop. And that's the kind of mindset that we want our users to have, right? We want to mitigate any type of unnecessary risk, so to speak.
And to sort of build upon and even just clarify what we mean by risk. Risk, we quantify risk as volatility, and that's typically how it's quantified in the investment world. And volatility is just how much your equity holding or your cryptocurrency is moving daily, monthly, quarterly, yearly, depending on how you want to measure by the time frame. And just so we have an understanding of what that is.
Yeah, I think that these are such foundational terms, concepts, parts of investing that the average investor, probably even higher levels of investors, just it's not like we can't understand it. It's just that we don't necessarily know that it's such a key thing, that it's so trackable, and that you're missing out on something which is very accessible.
Correct. Absolutely. Yep.
So how are you able to do this? How are you able to create these charts? And why don't you just sort of take us through how you develop the app and what the experience kind of is?
Sure. And so why don't I take this lead for the moment, Vinny, and then you can come in and fill in any holes that I left out. I think for Vinny and I, the genesis of the app, like we mentioned, we met playing basketball on the court, and we became friends that way. And, one day we just randomly met up and we just found out we were both trying to do something in entrepreneurship. And as we started chatting more and working together more through some other projects, one day I sat down with Vinny. I was like, hey, what's really your passion? What's your dream? And he's like, I want to help people be the best investors they can be. And for me, mine was, I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like, I want to help people understand risks and mitigate their risks, as an actuary. And so our process really coming around through this was, we've actually sat down and coded every algorithm that's being used. Some of it is proprietary, and some of it is stuff that we've leveraged, especially data. We've spent a lot of time trying to find data that we think is useful for people and that we can take advantage of, and help people calculate all these metrics, calculate all these analytics. And we're not app developers by training and by profession, but it was sort of like a learning process. I did have a little bit of app development through making Hoop Hero. But aside from that, it's really been a little bit trial by fire. But we've surrounded ourselves with some great help. We've been very fortunate and very blessed with the people that have stepped up to help us. And so, what you see is a culmination of all that.
Nice. All right. So with all available information, so when we're talking about individual securities, like you mentioned Tesla, you have the ability just to go into different previous reports? And like, how are you getting the information? I think that that's probably very obvious to you guys, but not necessarily obvious to other people.
Yeah.
Right,
So
right.
So we partner with vendors, or we subscribe to basically data providers, and through that, we pull in the data and we analyze them and use them in whichever way we need to, so that we can get these. We don't necessarily show that data directly to the user, but what we try to show them are the metrics and the algorithmic outputs, I guess, for the user. Yeah.
Right. So we pull in a lot of historical price data, right? So that's how we can determine, the price changes and the fluctuations and, the volatility and all that. And also, it's the foundation of how we, run our analytics. It's off historical data.
Got it. Yeah. And, the last thing that I want, if I'm just trying to become a better investor, is to comb through and sift through a massive amount of data, right? I don't want just information. I want knowledge, and I really want then to be able to pull wisdom from that to make me a better investor, right?
Right.
Absolutely. So I open up the app and I say what I'm interested in. Growth investing. How is it actually working?
So you open up the app and you can input, tickers that you want, right? Or you can link your brokerage account if you're comfortable with that, right? It's much smoother and easier process, but we understand that some people don't like to link their financials to apps. So we created a manual input for people as well. So once you have your tickers inputted, we have a home screen where it has all these different metrics for you, like the metrics that I mentioned before, CVAR, conditional value at risk, which essentially tells you how much you're at risk on any given day, right? So for instance, maybe like a GameStop, any given day, you could be at risk for losing 30% of your portfolio, right? And if you're okay with that, there's also probably much higher upside as well. But for something like an Apple, which maybe have, like a 3% down day would be like a bad day for them, but its upside is, much higher. It'll have a much higher risk to reward ratio, much lower volatility. And then we also benchmark it to the S&P 500. So you can see how your portfolio compares to the S&P 500. And then what we try to do is we actually do it for you, is we optimize those tickers for you as well. So you can see what the actual optimal allocations are for that particular portfolio, right? So sometimes, the question is, should I just, how much of Tesla should I buy? How much of GameStop should I buy? We actually calculate it and give you, according to historical, the Sharpe ratios, the historical risk to reward, will calculate the actual optimal allocations for you. So I think that's something that's really cool. Typically, this is something that takes a long time to do. If you're doing it on your own, it takes a lot of spreadsheets. You have to know how to code. You have to know where to pull the data. So we can easily do it all for you. But we have to say that this is all based on historical data. So, and this should not be counted as investment advice, right? We're just providing data.
At this point in time, the app is not a functioning crystal ball that will look into the future. Although it sounds amazing, it's not quite there yet.
Exactly.
And it's funny that you mentioned the future, because we also do attempt to project your portfolio to the future. And so that's another function that we've worked on, is that it's completely proprietary to us and very unique to us. There's no one else out there that does what we do. Is we'll take your portfolio and we'll tie it to macroeconomic factors, and we'll run, right now, all we have in there is 1,000 different interest rate scenarios. And so, if you're worried about a rising interest rate environment, you could potentially see how that may impact you in the near term, your portfolio, how it impact your portfolio. And you'll see, like, oh, maybe I need to make some adjustments, or maybe this is really not a risk that I need to be really fearful of or careful of. But sort of just like Vinny mentioned before, it's a model, it's an algorithm. It's not a crystal ball, it's not an oracle that's not going to tell you exactly what's going to happen in a year or two.
Right. Now, what is it? Is it individual stocks? What is it projecting?
So it projects your whole portfolio. So it takes your whole portfolio because, some stocks, they have negative correlations to one another, so they move in opposite directions, so they may balance themselves out. So we do look at the whole portfolio. It's a machine learning algorithm. It ties your portfolio to the historical price movements of what's happening in your portfolio to the actual historical interest rate environment that's happened in the past as well. And then using some insurance economic scenario generator, sorry to be so technical, we model 1,000 different economic scenarios. In this case, specifically we model 1,000 interest rate environments. Yeah.
Nice. So if I've got a handful of exchange traded funds, ETFs, I've got a handful of different stocks and things like that, and I'll put everything in and it'll say, okay, based on what it looks like you're trying to accomplish, probably optimize that by reducing your holdings in XYZ stock and putting it into XYZ ETF. And so it'll tell me, here's how much is at risk. Here's how much if you optimize things, or how you might consider optimizing it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And so we can handle ETFs. We can handle mutual funds. We can't handle crypto just yet, just to be clear. And we are just focused on the US equity markets at the moment. Yeah.
Nice. What has the response been so far?
It's been okay. I think this is something that is more immediate for people who are a little bit more sophisticated in their investment approach. So someone who is just sort of a new investor, they haven't gotten themselves to the point where they want to think like this and invest like this. If they are sort of a hands-on retail investor, some retail investors are a little less hands-on, and so they may just want to be in a very typical, prototypical robo-advisor, and they're happy with that. But we can help with that as well. Yeah.
Got it. Nice. Yeah, it strikes me that we've certainly been investing through brokerage accounts for a long time, but now there are so many more people that are coming into the world of trading. And I think, depending on what you look at, like 80 to 85% of those folks are currently losing money at it. And so it strikes me that if folks stay doing it, that they're going to want to become more sophisticated, and that instead of having to become more sophisticated all on my own, they can be more sophisticated, become more sophisticated by using an app like Javelin.
Correct. Absolutely. And that's certainly our hope. We want to partner with you and journey with you and trying to help you just get better risk to reward returns. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Well, gentlemen, people are ready for your difference making tip. What do you have for them?
All right, for a difference making tip, like we mentioned before, this app can really help you optimize your portfolio along with risk metrics and projections with a click of a button, right? So, we do all the dirty work, all the grunt work for you. You no longer have to work with complicated spreadsheets, pay for data, or know how to code. We still think it's, really important to understand basic investment concepts, but, we can do it all for you with a click of a button in this Javlin Invest app.
Well, I think that is, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you up, George. For me, I wanted to say, In life, timing is everything. But with investing, a simple sort of consistent approach, disciplined approach, such as dollar cost averaging, really takes away and proves that statement wrong. You'll do well if you do that.
Well, I think that both of those are great stuff. Definitely gets, come on.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, Jeff and Vinny, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people learn more about you, and where can they find Javlin Invest?
You can reach us at hi@javelininvest.com. If you have any questions, if you want to learn more about Javelin Invest, you can also reach us at our website, javelininvest.com, or download us in the App Store or the Google Play Store. If you email us at hi@javelininvest.com, we're pretty responsive most of the time. So we'll get right back to you. We love chatting with our potential users or clients.
Love it. Well, if you enjoyed this as much as I did, show Jeff and Vinny your appreciation and share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas. Go to javelininvest.com and download the app, Javelin Invest, from the App Store, wherever you download your apps. Shoot them an email, hi@javelininvest.com. Thanks again, Jeff and Vinny.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, George.
And
thanks for having
us.
Time.
Yeah, for sure. And until next time, keep fighting the good fight. We are all in this together.